my mantra is that business needs education and education needs business, and that's just not locally. I think that's nationally.
And further education, do you understand it? Do you know what it is? Welcome us in. We can help your organisation.
I don't think businesses work as efficiently or as actively with education establishments as they should.
As we're going into a new year, new administration, what's the biggest challenge for you?
Funding.
Further education is probably even less appreciated. And it's almost like the forgotten hero of education.
This episode of All Things Business, the podcast, is brought to you by digital media partner DFA Law. DFA Law, providers of expert and dedicated legal advice to businesses and families since 1838. DFA Law, the law firm for life.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm joined today by Sally Alexander and Nick Mann, and we're going to talk all things education, all things business in Milton Keynes. For the benefit of our audience that perhaps haven't heard of you or don't know your background, would you just give us a brief introduction, please?
Yes, my name's Sally Alexander. As you said, I'm the Chief Executive at Milton Keynes College, and I've worked with the college in a number of roles for over 30 years. Too long, some might say, but I've got a good understanding of what the college does, what further education does, and how we're supporting Milton Keynes.
Excellent. And Nick?
I chair the Milton Keynes Business Leaders Partnership, and as part of that role, I organise the Milton Keynes Business Achievement Awards. This will be the 11th year that we've held them. Every year we have a theme. This year is Bridging the Gap, Skills and Learning for Our Future Workforce. Trips off the tongue nicely. And I'm delighted to say that this year, Milton Keynes College is a headline sponsor. So, because we both agree it's very important, as I know
definitely.
It is for you as well, Ben.
It certainly is. I think we were saying before, Sally, my mantra is that business needs education and education needs business, and that's just not locally. I think that's nationally. But I also think the education sector is one of those sectors that probably isn't fully appreciated by society. And actually, when you dig into education, further education is probably even less appreciated. And it's almost like the forgotten hero of education.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. If you talk to education about people, they'll be familiar with schools because they've been to schools. They'll be familiar with sixth forms because they might have attended there. And then they'll think university. And that's the kind of educational span that most people are aware of. But of course, further education is there sort of post-16, meeting a wide range of needs. But if you haven't been involved in FE, chances are that you may not have heard of it and might not really understand what it is. And quite often it's seen as that place where people go when they can't stay at school and do A-levels. And it does indeed fulfil that role really successfully. We will take a significant number of young people that struggle at school, but we also have a lot of people that will do their A-levels with us, will do their T-levels with us, will do their apprenticeships. We will have adults that will come and continue to develop their skills while they're in the workplace. So we have a whole range of students that come to us, and our focus is about developing their skills and helping them to be more successful in the workplace. And often that's a bit of that education sector that just isn't seen or recognised.
I was very impressed with Milton Keynes College as when I went to the launch for the Business Awards. It was a wonderful facility. Is there what would be your biggest strengths in terms of subject matter or subjects that you would really say that you're flying the flag in Milton Keynes for?
I mean, of course, I would say this. We are fantastic across the board. Of course, I would say that, Ben. I think that we have a fantastic new Institute of Technology, which has a focus on STEM, science, technology, engineering and maths, but our real focus through there is digital and technology. And that's a really exciting area that we're really keen to have here in Milton Keynes to work with our local employers. And so actually for us to be able to develop a curriculum that is really meeting the needs of the businesses that are coming to work here in Milton Keynes. So that whole technology area for us is a real strength. But we have strengths across the board. Our hospitality and catering is strong.
Yeah, well, you said that. Did all of the students work at Silverstone?
That's one of our best examples, actually, our most established examples of working with employers. Probably the relationships lasted about 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And if you're level 2 or above, you spend 50% of your time at Silverstone Circuit, working all of the big projects that happen there, but specifically the Lapper Lights at Christmas.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Formula One in July every year, which is the final project for the students. But it's that successful, Silverstone have actually adapted some of their recruitment processes for staff, and they're anticipating employing our students either during the year, where they'll pay them as part-time staff, or once they have completed their programme. So it's a really fantastic example of how, if you can work closely with employers, you can adapt your curriculum, and then you can help
almost
fill
bespoke.
those skills gap. Absolutely. Make it for, if employers tell us how they want us to deliver, we can adapt to that. And that's probably the bits of the way that we work that employers will not be aware of if they haven't worked with us before.
Nick, you're very successful in technology, and technology has been a big part of your career. That's music to everyone's ears.
Oh, absolutely. As we've spoken before, I think, especially with my role, my hat as chair of business leaders, and particularly it's why we've chosen the theme this year being what it is. We've all heard a lot of talk from businesses about the skills gap and about the lack of the difficulty that they have with making recruits, and yet they aren't. There are notable exceptions, but in general, I don't think businesses work as efficiently or as actively with education establishments as they should. Silverstone's a shining case in point. But digital skills, obviously the world it needs more and more digital skills. And so I know it was a very long time in gestation because you had to pitch for it. And there's only 20 or so across the country, is that right?
Oh, Institutes of Technology.
IoTs, yeah. So to have one in Milton Keynes is well, in Bletchley is obviously a great accolade locally, but it's also not just serving us in Milton Keynes, it's serving us in Northampton, it's the South region. Central region. So it's providing those skills that our region needs, so much the better that it's local for us, because Milton Keynes, Northampton businesses will be able to directly benefit, just as Silverstone is benefiting from the great skills.
Do you feel what could the business community do more? And do you feel that there's an opportunity to do more with businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the great things about being involved with sponsoring the awards is actually raising that awareness. But there are a number of ways that businesses can support us. You know, if you're a big business, something as big as Silverstone Circuit, then it's maybe more straightforward for you to come up with ways of working. But actually, there are all sorts of different ways you can, as a business, come into college. You could come and talk to some of our students about what it's like to have a career in digital marketing, in the creative industries, in hairdressing. And so we'll get maybe employers to come in and talk with our students. We'll then ask them if they're feeling a bit more adventurous, will you come and help us develop our curriculum? And some employers will do that. Or there's one employer that said, you're much better off doing it in a different order. They need to know this before they know that. But actually, that's not the way the qualification is set up. So, you know, we can adapt the way that we teach. We had another large employer in Milton Keynes who actually decided they were going to take on, I think it was 8 interns. So we had 8 young people go to work with them over the summer. They paid them, and they worked in all different departments in the business.
To get to learn the business.
Yeah, so some were in marketing, some were in HR, some were in the sector of that business. And then 3/4 of them, when they'd finished the interns, went on to do a T-level with that organisation. So basically, they've just recruited 6 or 7 members of staff who they know are a perfect fit because they've gone and tried out. But if they hadn't have done that with us, they would have just put an advert out in the paper and said, who would like to come and work for us?
I think if I can just come in there, Ben, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but it's probably more beneficial for businesses to work with colleges than it is perhaps schools, because the majority of the schools, a lot of school people will go off to universities or straight into
and then go
employment.
down the career mark.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas, as I say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think working with the college, people there will be some that go to university, but a lot will go directly into employment. So they get that more direct benefit.
It's not as longer on the conveyor belt, so to speak.
That's right. No, actually, what we're trying to look at, and we have a advisory group that work with our Institute of Technology that's made up mostly of employers or local businesses, and actually the conclusion we've come to is we need to start engaging with young people while they are still at school. So whilst they're in primary school, maybe in secondary school, they're thinking about the careers that they want to go into. So we can start to say to them, if this is a career that interests you, think about taking these GCSEs
because it will
because that's actually going to help you. And we've developed a piece of work recently with Red Bull, and it's a project called STEMX. And that is us working with Red Bull going into primary schools to really try to excite young people about working in engineering and technology, and then working with them to see what that pathway is. We would love it if they then came to us and did some further study at 16 or did an apprenticeship with us. But actually it's helping children at school understand what careers are on offer for them and helping to actually map that out. And so that's a piece of work that we're starting to try to do, to say, actually, have an idea when you're younger, help your parents to understand what it is you want to do in order to enter industry once you get to 18.
I think another area that the college excels for us in terms of our local community is with communities that are newly settled in the local area as well. If English isn't your first language, if you don't necessarily have the networks that enable you to get work experience, and that's something that you and I have spoken about, we can maybe come into later. But again, if you're trying to go to a university, maybe you can't get the qualifications, but if you go to the college, you can learn English much better, and you just have those skills that take. And I think we have a very large, very diverse community.
We have a very diverse community of students at the college, but a lot of our adult provision in particular, we support adults for whom English isn't their first language, and we can help to develop those skills, and then we can start to think about what careers can we support you into. A lot of the people will come to us and they'll be very highly qualified in their own countries, but they don't have English. So if we can help with, sort of bridging that skills gap, that's something that's really exciting for us to be able to do.
I was at an event a couple of months ago, and I was listening to, it was a business event, listening to business people talk about the skills gap, and I let them sort of carry on. And I said, oh, just out of interest, what do you do with the local education industry? Or what do you mean? Well, when was the last assembly that you went in to deliver, or when was the last work experience? Oh, no. How many people have you given work experience to this year? We don't really do a lot of that. So the 2 or 3 people, I'm not going to name them, that were moaning about bridging the gap or the lack of skills within the local area aren't being proactive in terms of giving back. And I feel really passionate that all businesses have got that obligation to give back, whether that's one day a year or whether it's something that's more formal. Because I appreciate businesses need, they're there to make money and be a business and look after their employees. But actually, it's about thinking about the next generation, because they're only a couple of years away in terms of, well, every year. I mean, if you look at MHA, for example, it's probably a bad example because they're national, but firmly based in Northamptonshire and Milton Keynes. I think they took on 180 young people this year, which is fantastic across all of their offices.
Well, we've been talking, our politicians have spoken for the last 10 years about the lack of growth and productivity in our community, in our economy. And there's potentially loads of really talented people that we aren't helping help us, help them to generate an income for themselves, and that will pay dividends to our nation. My
vision is, Sally, that I would love every company. Yeah, I want there to be a pledge, and I want every company to sign up and almost like sponsor a school or an education facility or organisation, and get it right in terms of the right types of schools and versus the right types of businesses, and almost like matchmake them. And then they take them under their wing to be able to give back a little bit, whether that's open their doors for students to come in or vice versa. They go into schools or
I think
or colleges.
There's a real need for that now, because it used to be that schools would arrange your work experience and what have you. But nowadays they don't, they can't. So again, if you're new to the country, you don't have these networks.
Yeah.
You and me, Ben, we'd just pick up the phone and we could arrange it for our kids, and it's great. But if you don't have that, what do you do?
We're very fortunate in that position.
Yeah.
So, and
one idea that we're starting to look at with some of the employers that we're working with in terms of the IoT are looking at sort of talent, what we're calling talent foundries.
Yeah.
And actually, if you're a small employer and you're thinking, actually, it's just a bit too much effort for me, or I'm not quite sure how to go about having an apprentice, or I'm not quite sure how to do a T-level work placement, is actually bringing employers together so they can work out how together they can offer that support. So it's not suddenly sitting on the shoulders of one person who runs a business with just a couple of people, and it's quite pressured. And so it's kind of see if we can create networks of employers that we as a larger educational organisation can support to actually develop that model, because it's only going to benefit them. It's only going to there's no point in us identifying a student that doesn't link well with that employer or has behavioural problems, so isn't going to settle there, but only ever going to send people that we think are a match. So there's no bad news with this for an employer that either needs to recruit staff or is looking to grow. But it's just helping people to see that that's what you can get if you engage with the education available in your community.
Many people are aware of apprenticeships, although I'd still think that there's, I think they're amazing. We've been fortunate, I think, to probably have 8 or 9 apprentices come through our doors over recent years. But I still think if you go back even 20, 30 years, I think it's been frowned upon, probably the wrong word in there, but being looked down upon.
Yeah.
And degree apprenticeships now, I think they're just as fantastic as apprenticeships. But T levels. Tell us about T levels.
Okay, T levels. They're a lovely new qualification that we're having to deal with at the moment. They're a qualification that were developed by the Conservative Party under the last administration. So it's still not clear if they will continue, but I think that they will, because I think generally across the board people are sympathetic towards them. An A level is purely academic, and people are familiar with taking your 3 A levels. If you take a T level, that's equivalent to taking 3 A levels, so it's the same level of academic rigour, but you have to do a work placement, and the work placement is not just ringing up somebody and saying, can I come and do a couple of weeks with you? It's absolutely has to be linked to the qualification that you're doing. It has to be worked through with your employer. There has to be, aims, objectives. You have to reach a particular impact. And it's kind of like doing an apprenticeship the other way around. With an apprenticeship, you're 4 days working, 1 day with a training organisation. With a T level, you're 4 days with the organisation and 1 day working. It doesn't have to, you could work for 4 or 5 weeks in one go, but it's that level of commitment that, 20% of your time will be spent with the employer. So it does create some fantastic outcomes for students, but it is a very rigorous and quite difficult qualification. And the challenge we have around T levels is that they've been brought in to replace BTECs, which are the vocational qualifications most people are familiar with. But a lot of young people that take BTECs will struggle to take a T level in the same way that they might struggle to take an A level. So we're waiting to see now what the new government will do. They've done what they've called a pause and review on defunding BTECs, and so we're waiting to see what approach the current government will take going forward. But of itself, a T level can be a great qualification, but it's not the only answer to vocational qualifications.
So from an FE perspective, I suppose it's a good thing, because now you've got apprenticeships, degree apprenticeships, BTEC and T levels. So having that sort of diverse range means that if working with an employer, or even if there's that individual that doesn't quite know what's right for them, you've almost got something for everybody.
Yeah, and I think the really important message to send out to employers is we don't expect you to be the experts.
Yeah, you will advise and guide. Yeah,
if somebody called our kind of commercial team and said, I think I want an apprenticeship, but I'm not quite sure. I've heard about these T levels. We would jump on them, say, come in, have a chat, and we can work through with, employers in the area. We can do kind of, a plan with them about how we can help you to recruit, what sort of training needs you have, all the different sorts of training that is available to us, whether it's you can get it for free and it's funded. If you've got to pay for it, then let's work out something that's really bespoke that will meet your needs. But we can create a kind of professional training plan for businesses. And we have a whole team of people that spend
I like the bespoke element of that. It's really good. One person that really impressed me at the launch of the MKBAAs was one of your former students, AJ.
Yeah.
What an amazing young lady she is, and in terms of her business, and I thought the way that she presented, I thought was just brilliant. She just captivated captivated the room. But AJ is now going to be a governor?
She is now a college governor, so she's almost gone, full loop. She's a fantastic example because she went to university and it wasn't quite right. No, she did her A-levels at school. That wasn't quite right for her, so she came across to college and did a kind of performing arts course, and that really helped her focus on what she wanted to do. Then went to university and now has her own sort of digital marketing company and is offering work placements for our students. Brilliant. Which is fantastic.
Yeah,
but it's then said she would really like to, continue to give back to the college, and so has started this academic year as a college governor. And to have somebody that's been through the college system but is also running a local business and is somebody who is younger and closer in age to a number of our students, it's fantastic to have her on the board.
Ben, I think it'd be worthwhile just talking about an age above that, if that's okay as well, because we all know that the world is changing massively in terms of the skill sets that we know. So even if you did do A-levels, a degree, or went through the college, let's say 10, 15 years ago, the skill sets your employer is going to be demanding now are very likely going to be different. And if, God forbid, you become made redundant, etc., it's super important that you've got the skill sets that employers are looking for today, which is another facet of the awards. Go. Just
to come in there, this was a fact that I was told a few months ago. Judging by your reaction, Sally, you're going to tell me if this is true or not, because I haven't fact checked this, but it does sound very right. If you're a year one pupil, okay, so you're a 5-6 year old, 80% of them that start their first job at 16 or 18, their job doesn't exist today.
Yep. Yeah. There are so many people going through the system at the moment. We don't know what their job will be. And so the work we have to do to kind of develop those transferable skills, because actually we need them to be work ready, we need them to be curious, we need them to be good communicators, we need them to be good team players, and then when they get to the right age, it's right, and these are the actual sector skills that you need. So it's so important to develop those wider skills and not just think, I'm going to do this one particular academic qualification.
But this is, I think, again, an area where it's important that business works with academia, in as much as who knew what AI was in terms of the colleges and universities 10 years ago. Maybe they did, who knows, but in terms of turning out work-ready AI graduates, so to speak. So businesses are now looking for those and calling for those, and I think I'm right in saying that you do lifelong learning, you do have a range of adult.
Yeah, but those are the sort of qualifications. For example, you can do at the IoT, and so we've worked with employers. We have anchor partners, KPMG and Microsoft are anchor partners for the IoT, so they're working with us now to deliver, qualifications. What is cybersecurity? What is AI, what is forensic science, that both our existing students can engage with, but we can also then do sort of off the shelf provision for adults to come in and develop their skills. And that's really important for us to be working with big employers like that, because they are at the cutting edge. They know what our students at the moment need to know. And so to be able to work with all of the, the key employers across Milton Keynes and say, come and help us develop the curriculum. How should we teach AI in your view? How should we teach this particular sector? And that's what makes it, really relevant and will help the students that come to us to get jobs.
What do you think the biggest challenge is for the college and FE, if you like, in 2025, as we're going into a new year, new administration?
Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge for you?
Funding. Funding is the biggest issue, as it is with all public sector. That is our challenge. As a further education sector, we're not paid as well as schools. So my average school lecturer is paid about £9,000 or £10,000 less than the school teacher who's just across the road. And that's just the way that the sectors have developed. We don't have a national pay body. So when Bridget Phillipson's saying all school teachers or all teachers have got a 5.5% pay rise, that's only teachers in schools. That's not teachers in FE or universities. That doesn't apply to, because we're managed in a different way. So our biggest challenge is funding to pay and recruit the right calibre of staff. A big example is trying to get staff to teach engineering, electrical. They're massively in demand, but the amount of money that you can make as an electrician on a, in a building site is astronomical. And so I'm offering a teacher's pay which is significantly below that. It's really, really difficult to entice people into teaching. So in terms of recruiting and retaining staff, and then for us particularly, because Milton Keynes is growing, I need to grow our estate. And so actually it was really good to hear in the budget that there's 6.7 billion pounds, I think, for capital, but I have no idea what that means for me at Milton Keynes College, but I need to grow. Yeah, he's hoping. But, I need a way to grow so that I can meet the need of a city that is really ambitious to grow by 2050.
Because tech, as a tech area, Milton Keynes is, I'm putting you on the spot here, Nick, but outside of London and Manchester, Milton Keynes is the city to be. Yeah,
pretty much. I mean, that was last year's awards, but I can probably. It's something like, I think, nearly 2/3 of all jobs in Milton Keynes have some basis on technology, reliance on technology. It's an incredible number of businesses, which does rate us right up there.
And you listen to people like Steve Salvin, CEO of Amy. His why behind Milton Keynes. Very encouraging, and it's got to give positivity to lots of the businesses across Milton Keynes as to why he and his board chose Milton Keynes, and they've grown year on year.
And the council, to their credit, are really trying to boost the technology and the communications between technologies. They have something called Proto Space, which putting on tech focused events, and we had last week was the AI summit. It was the year after the AI summit at
Bletchley Park.
So quite rightly, I think that the council and businesses within Milton Keynes, and this will have a knock-on benefit, I think, for the whole area, including Northampton and Bedfordshire, really trying to make Milton Keynes a hotspot for tech and tech jobs.
And I think East West Rail is really going to support that. And we had the commitment again in the budget that the government would continue to take it, because at the moment we know it will go Oxford to Milton Keynes, Bletchley, Milton Keynes, but they've committed now to take it on to Bedford and then hopefully on to Cambridge. And actually linking Oxford and Cambridge together with Milton Keynes, the ability to collaborate, to work across the sector is absolutely fantastic. For our students, it will be fantastic because they can hop on a train and go and experience, different organisations, different ways of working. Such opportunities there.
Yeah, I'm all for East West Rail.
Yeah,
but we need to make sure people are coming in, not going out.
Correct.
And we can do that by having that centre of mass between the two endpoints. As long as, I think, and this is really important, one of my probably a future topic for an awards, as long as Northampton and Milton Keynes and Bedford all work together, we're not eyeing each other up jealously. We've got to come together as interstitial towns and cities and go, right, we got to really have an offer for people that live locally.
For our audience, Sally, just give us an idea, if you can, of approximate number of staff that you've got, employees that were working at the college, and then, if I may, students as well, just to give us an idea of just how big Because I think this is going to surprise a few people.
So the number of staff will sound bigger than you expect because it's over 1,000. It's about 1,200. But that's because, as well as what you see in Milton Keynes, we work in 30 prisons across the country. So that number includes our prison staff. So we're, way up into the 1,200, something like that. In terms of students, we've got 3,500 16 to 18-year-olds. You've got about 800 apprentices, but if you included all the students, so people doing part-time courses, people doing professional courses, we have a lot of students with special educational needs that come and work with us at the college. So you probably get to around about 8,000 students altogether. So it is significant.
Yeah.
We're the largest educational provider in Milton Keynes, if you don't count the OU. The OU obviously is a great provision, but it's a global organisation really, but in terms of a single institution in Milton Keynes, we do the most for post-16 for young people and adults in the city.
Pretty impressive statistics, those, Nick.
Really are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Really,
and I think probably as a local business, we probably don't appreciate how big the college is and just how many people are benefiting year in, year out.
Well, I agree, and I do think it's about how the college is perceived and positioned. And when I was young, and I hope you don't mind my saying this because I think you'll agree with it, it was go to school, go to university, and if you fail your A levels, you go to college. And it was that it sort of also automatically demotes it to a second tier, which is nonsense because there's so many people. I mean, we all need our cars fixing, our hair cutting, and those vocational roles. You don't just make it, you've got to go somewhere to learn them. And that's beyond the fact you can do A-levels there and you can learn AI there and you can do all the other brilliant things that you can do there. So it's so important and yet undervalued and, as a result, underfunded.
Yeah, and for me, that's fantastic to be associated with the awards because this is my opportunity to go and shout further education. Well, it's why I agreed to do it. But it's my opportunity to go and shout further education to everybody.
Definitely.
Further education. Do you understand it? Do you know what it is? Welcome us in. We can help your organisation.
I knew there was a lack of funding in FE within the education sector, but I didn't realise it was as much as that. If you look at a teacher's salary. And that must be really.
It's really tough.
Difficult.
We have a risk register like all big organisations. Top risk is safeguarding. We have lots of very young people with challenges that come to us. But our next one is staff recruitment and retention because without the staff, obviously we can't offer the provision. So it's really is one of our biggest risks. And if you go to any of the colleges that we work with, across Northampton and Bedfordshire, they would tell you exactly the same. It's really, really difficult.
Tell me about the prison contract that you've got. So you've got 30 prisons that you work with across the country.
We've worked in prisons since 1992. It's something we've always done. We started with Wood Hill, which obviously is the prison in Milton Keynes. And back in those days, every prison used to work with its local college. So there are about 140 colleges that offered this provision. As the years have gone by, they've grouped prisons together into, groupings. Therefore, they need less providers. And we've got to a position now where we're one of only 4 providers in England. And, we deliver across the country. I'm off to the Isle of Wight tomorrow to see an OU graduation ceremony for our students in H&P Pentonville.
So I'm
Not
right
Pentonville, Parkhurst.
Sorry. I'm right in thinking that the aim there is to prevent reoffending by making sure that those individuals that have leaving prison, they're leaving prison with that qualification where they can go out and make a difference in their lives.
It's the qualification, but also it's the attitudes and behaviours. If you think you can probably count on the fingers of both your hands the people that will never get released from prison. So everybody, bar 8, 9, 10, are coming out of prison. So how would you want that person to be if they come and live next door to you? Do you want them to be angry? Do you want them to be disrespectful? Do you want them to think, I'll have to go and commit crime to make some money? or do you want them to have, to be more positive about life, to be respectful, to be thinking about how I want to engage with my community? So it's all about saying to them, look, you've been caught, so your punishment is losing your liberty. It is a horrendous punishment. Don't believe what you read in the Sun and the Daily Mail about what a wonderful time they're having in prison. It's a tough place to be. What we're trying to do then is make it so that when they're released, they can actually have a positive impact on their communities. And they're an untapped workforce. We have worked previously. It's been more difficult since COVID. It's building up again now. But we've worked with big organisations, people such as Timpson's that everybody's familiar with, that will recruit ex-offenders. We put about 700 of our prisoners that worked with us in education into work, into real jobs with organisations that are not seeing them as cheap labour but are investing with them.
I think
it's a fantastic way to, another unthought of, source of recruitment, really.
I went to the opening, I'm going back a couple of years now, of Wellingborough Prison.
Yeah.
And Wellingborough, when I...
Five Wells.
Yeah, Five Wells.
Yeah.
And on arrival, I was like, wow, this is... look more like an airport than a prison.
Yeah.
So I go in and do all the checks, etc. And I started to think, and then Paul Cunningham was the liaison officer, great big guy, and a lovely guy, but he towers over me, head and shoulders. And he gave this presentation. I'm sort of thinking, actually, is this prison? Because I was almost like, and then I had a conversation with him at the end of the talk, and then that's when the penny dropped in terms of actually, I'm not going to. The stats were something ridiculous, like 75% of people reoffend within 18 months or something, and they're back here, and our job is to make sure they don't come back here. And I was like, okay, all right, I get that now. And we were meeting in the area, which is where visitors would be. And he said to me, Ben, you try and pick that chair up. And I couldn't. And it was done on purpose, because if there is you've got to give them responsibility to the offenders. And this is people that probably are the last 12 months of their sentencing, I think.
Yeah.
And if they abuse it, then they'll be dealt with and they'll go backwards. But at the same time, we've got to protect everybody. So no one's picking up a chair and lobbing it at anyone because it's too heavy. But they're teaching something like 12 or 14 qualifications there, which include, if I've got this wrong, I apologise, but I think one of them's a chocolatier's course.
Could be.
Yeah, I mean, how random is that? Which is why I've remembered it. And the others would have been your traditional sort of engineering, electrical, and they had some woodworking in there as well.
Yeah,
but they had a couple of bespoke ones, and one of them was chocolatiering.
Yeah,
and I thought it completely changed my outlook on that sort of educational provision. Then.
Because the provision that they'll do, they'll do the, very traditional, you need to help people with their maths and their English and their digital skills and general communication skills. But then there will be things that are about, real deficits in terms of let's support people to learn painting and decorating, electrical engineering. But then it'll be working with employers to say, what do you want us to do? And Timpson's do it on two ways. Timpson's will have some of their actual small sort of work areas in there, so you go in there and they're kind of doing their day-to-day business within a prison, or they'll work how they did with us, where they would come in and we would work with students to get their maths and English okay, to develop their attitudes. Timpson's would come in, literally do like a 10-minute interview with about 6 people, say, and then they'd come to me and say, we'll take that one and that one. So because we can work with them when they come out. You go to Coventry on Monday, you go to Birmingham on Monday, and we've got a job for you. And so it would work almost like a recruitment agency. Yeah. And, the prison will work with any employer to a certain extent that will say, I'll invest this time if you can help us get them work ready. So
I always think it's one of the most poignant awards. I've been lucky enough to go to the Student of the Year awards quite a few times, and that's at the wing, isn't it, at Silverstone?
That's right.
And you have the Student of the Year from prison, and normally it's just their first name or not even their first name. I don't know. And to hear the stories, which are quite often read out, aren't they?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You just think, goodness, how much their lives hopefully are being transformed by having an education.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Well, it's a lovely way to bring this episode to an end. I think the work that you and your team do is, and across further education, but I've learnt a lot from today, Sally, and I think the work that you and your
Great.
team do is amazing. So
Thank you very much.
my hashtag or my mantra for when I'm talking to the education community is keep being brilliant.
Well, thank you.
Because without you as a community, we don't get the workforce of tomorrow.
No.
You know, I'm lucky enough to work with some really amazing creative people day in, day out. But 10 years ago, 5 or 6 of them out there would be in a school somewhere, or some of them would be at college. And if it wasn't for the teachers and the lecturers that were looking after them then, we wouldn't have the rounded individuals that we've got now. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of what you all do.
Well, thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. Now, with all of our guests, Sally, we always ask them to tell us who they would like to have a dinner party with. So if you've got a table for 4, you've got 3 guests to pick because you've got to be at the table, past or present, who would they be?
God, now there's a question. So I have been asked this before. And I said, it's always got to be somebody to do with the music industry because I'm a great lover of music. So I'll probably go for something really obvious like Kurt Cobain from Nirvana. So to talk to somebody about music. I'd love to go with a politician. And it would be fascinating, wouldn't it, to sit down with somebody like Tony Blair or somebody even like Margaret Thatcher, all politics aside, to actually understand about that. And somebody who I saw on the telly who, while I was watching thinking I'd love to have dinner with you, would be somebody like Grayson Perry. What a laugh.
Yeah, he'd be hilarious.
What a laugh.
Brilliant.
He was so good. I saw him doing politics show the other day and he was absolutely brilliant. So
Excellent.
I'd have somebody from music, somebody from politics and somebody that makes me laugh.
That's a great table. He's already given his on another podcast, but
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix was one of them.
Jimi Hendrix, I think a scientist, I said, didn't I? So Einstein or someone like that. And then
Artist.
James Lovelock would be a good one as well, another scientist. And then what did I do? I said an artist. I said Pablo. No, I said Dali. Because I think he'd be crazy as. This time...
Oh, you're going for a different table?
Well, I can do. No,
Well,
Stephen Fry would be a definite.
Yeah.
Maybe someone like Dave Gilmour, guitarist from Pink Floyd. And a politician would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Have either of you...
John Major,
John Major?
maybe. Ben, do you mind if I just quickly say
Yeah, go for it.
about the awards? If
Yeah.
you haven't entered, still have time. They will close Friday the 15th of November. It's a very quick process to enter. There's 2 stages. First stage, write 500 words. Tell us why your business is great, deserves to be considered. From that, the independent judging panel will come up with a shortlist, and then you'll be asked some more questions if you make it through to stage 2. The website's www.mkbaa.co.uk. So that's mkbaa.co.uk. You can enter up to 2 entries, and there's about 15 categories. We really try to make it so that any organisation with an MK postcode, sorry Northampton, but that's
No,
a
it's
business.
the MKBAAs.
That you do Northampton. If you've got an MK postcode, we try to make it so that there's at least 2 categories that any organisation can enter.
No, we'll put all the details in the post as well.
I'd like to once again thank Sally very much for the support. We couldn't do it without, from your awards.
Yeah.
You can't do it without the sponsors.
And it's the perfect theme for us. So it's
Absolutely,
so great
yeah.
to be associated with.
And a real, I sound cheesy now, but it's great to be able to give you the opportunity to tell the viewers and everybody else about the college and the great work you do.
Brilliant. Thank you both.
Thanks.